Hello and welcome to the Interledger Salon. You're listening to the fifth edition of our quarterly series, presented by the Interledger Foundation. These conversations bring together some of the most inspiring voices in our ecosystem. People who, like us, are committed to building a more equitable financial future. The Salon is a space for dialogue, knowledge sharing, and collective imagination. My name is Andrea Barrett, and I'm joining you from Canada. I'm a 2025 fellow at the Interledger Foundation, where my project is called Empowering Global ROSCA Users Through Digital Financial Inclusion. We focus on helping ROSCA participants transition into digital tools that support global participation. Now, for those who may not know, ROSCA, ROSCA, stands for Rotating Savings and Credit Association. It's pretty much an academic term. Depending on where you are in the world, they go by different names. My family comes from the Caribbean, Jamaica to be specific. So back home in Jamaica, they call it a pardna. In Nigeria, it's called a susu. In Guyana, it's called a box hand. And in South Africa, it's commonly referred to as a stockfell. In academic terms, like I said, they're called ROSCA. But at their heart, they're community-driven financial systems designed to help people save together, access capital, and build wealth. This is what Grandma taught us. So this is not theory for me, it's personal. I come from a family and a community where ROSCAs have always been a trusted way to save and support one another. Yet despite their widespread use, ROSCAs are rarely talked about and even less recognized for the powerful role they play in financial empowerment. Our first guest today is fellow Canadian Philip Cargill. Philip left Jamaica as a child and moved to Canada with his mother and his siblings, bringing with him the tradition of peer-to-peer lending through partners. We first met about 5 years ago, and one of the connections we discovered was our shared Jamaican heritage and our experience with partners. So let's begin by giving each of our guests a chance to introduce themselves and their work, whether in the context of digital financial inclusion or beyond. Hello, Phil. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your journey?
Hello, thank you for having us. Thank you for having me. We came to Canada in 1971. Yeah, I was like 7 years old. But partners and Roscas and helping in the community. This is a part of how we grew. I went back to Jamaica numerous times, spent a year or two at various times. So this was something that was a part of our growth, our community, helping each other build homes, helping each other save for various things. So that just got transplanted here in watching how my mother dealt with emergencies in the house, and sometimes how she saved for business ventures and so forth. But it's been good. I've used the Rosca myself later on in life, and I found it to be just perfect. I mean, sometimes it's the most timely thing that you need to get done in a untimely way, and it works out very well.
I understand. I'm looking forward to hearing more. Abdul, over to you. Hello, another fellow Canadian. Please tell us a bit about your background and the work that you're doing.
Hi, Andrea. Hi, everyone. My name's Abdul. I am Nigerian. I moved to Canada when I was 15. It was immediately after we lost my mom and we moved over. As a Nigerian, we had the Isusu as it was informal back then. It was something I just didn't pay real attention to. And even during my first year in Canada, my father was talking about it with somebody, and I heard about the conversation, but I didn't really pay attention to it. It was until I started working in the healthcare industry where someone close to me told me about Isusu and told me like, well, you should do this. And that's when I tried it out and I was like, okay, this makes sense. This is good for people who are new into the country or people who are trying to get their finances together. It helps. So that was my first interaction with Isusu, and ever since I've been trying to provide a digital solution for that called Chitlink.
It's interesting that you say that. What the three of us have in common is that we come from the diaspora, so Jamaican and from the continent of Africa. And It makes sense to us, but there are many, many people around the world where this is a foreign concept. They don't understand what we're talking about, what we're doing, or why we would even want to save money in such a manner. So, want to get more into this with both of you. So, thank you for the introductions. Before we delve deeper into ROSCAs, I'd like to ask you both a question. What does financial inclusion mean to you personally?
Well, I guess from an entrepreneurial standpoint, is having access to capital in a timely manner for you to be able to build your business and create commerce and build wealth. So I think that having the flexibility of the whole system available to you is important. However, we find that it's not for a lot of us. So we tend to move back to traditional means of helping each other, which makes perfect sense. And one of those mechanisms are partners. So, the more we can either include partners in the bigger financial picture or the bigger financial world includes us in it, just what it means to me is finding a way for all of us to work together in that way.
Financial inclusion to me means that anybody from any part of the world, whether a new immigrant, can integrate or interact with a structured financial system. Either way, like no matter how structured it is, you shouldn't be penalized for being new to the country before you can interact with a financial system. You shouldn't be penalized for being in a financial bracket in order to interact with a financial system. No matter where you're from, no matter what you've been through, this system will definitely have a way to work for you, basically.
So now that really grounds our conversation. So let's now explore ROSCAs themselves, starting with the names and traditions that carry so much meaning. So let's start with something simple but powerful, naming. So, as I mentioned earlier, in academia, we often hear the term ROSCA, which I have to tell you, if my grandmother were alive and she heard the term ROSCA, she would not know what I was talking about. If I said pardna, or grandma, that every month when you get together with your friends and you're saving money, she would understand that. ROSCA is purely an academic term and wouldn't mean nothing to her. In our communities, it's known by something very, very different. So, Phil, what did you say your family called it? Like, where, what the part of the world you're from, what do your people call it?
It was a partner, man. We call it a throw a hand. Like, so, when you collect your money, you're throwing a hand, or you give your money, you're getting your hand, type of thing, right? So you're getting your portion of that partner build out. But yeah, we call it a partner. We've used it for so long. But yeah, people use short forms like, yo, you throw a hand this week, you're getting your hand this week, that type of thing.
You were saying that you have memories of how this showed up in your life with your mom?
Yeah, man. So my mom owned a couple of businesses growing up. So she started a hair salon, and I know that she used it to, pay for professional services in terms of plumbing, in terms of electrical work being done in the salon, and so forth. And it helped her to move quickly to open up her store. Like, instead of going to a bank, going through all of that in terms of trying to get lines of credit and so forth, the partner system worked much better for her, for our household, and we were able to use friends and so forth to deal with it. So I think in terms of starting a small business, it's really helped us quite a bit. Helped me
Mm,
personally.
mhm.
From my thing, how I use it in my personal life was, you know, we were planning a trip. We are planning a trip, me and my kids, and so we just I just said, okay, you know what, to make this happen faster, because the timeline to travel was happening faster than the timeline for the large outlay to come. So we just used the partner. I used the partner to get there, and it worked out perfectly.
So I like what you said about your mom. So she didn't have to go to the bank and she didn't have to get a line of credit. She used the partner to help her start her business.
Yes.
So, Abdul, how about you? When you hear Rosca, what comes to mind? And can you tell us about your own experience with Isusu and how it's helped shape your perspective?
When I hear ROSCA, I know it's the academic version of Isusu. I didn't even hear about ROSCA until I started researching for my Chitlink app. I started looking at competition. I started looking at what other names do they call this. That's when I came across the term ROSCA. And my history with ROSCA is I had minimal interaction when I was in Nigeria. It was after I moved to Canada that someone spoke to me and told me, hey, you should try this. This would help you with saving for a house, creating projects that you would like. And then that's when my view changed, and I was like, oh, this is a good system. How about we introduce this to the Western audience? How can we introduce the Western audience to something like this?
I love the intersection of business or entrepreneurship with this. It's like I always gravitate towards things like that. So I really like, Phil talked about his mom and she used this to start her business and helping like along the entrepreneurial journey. And then Abdul, you talked about how you use this to help start your business. So there's so many things you can do with money. People save money for so many reasons. They save it for household expenses. They save it for a wedding. They're saving to bury their dead. They're saving to send their kids to pursue post secondary education. They're also using it for commerce and entrepreneurship, which has a tremendous impact globally. And I just love that. I love that it's not just for frivolous or trivial things, it's for the greater good and benefit of our families and of our community and in the areas that we live in. So now that we've grounded ourselves in the names and traditions, let's discuss our personal connection. So, Phil, you alluded to this earlier. So, what made you decide to join a ROSCA, and how has being in one helped shape your financial life?
Well, it was great because I've used it twice, later on in life, and it was great in that I was able to provide a great trip for seven of us with a short time span. Had a great time doing it. I didn't have to go into monies that cost me 9 or 10%. So it worked out good for that. My kids have a lasting memory around that. I watched it in terms of things I do now and trying to do. It would have to be a fairly big partner for me to be able to use it as an investment for a company. But I totally get it. I watch how my mother did it. I've watched aunts and friends start small businesses using ROSCAs because they're not able to go to a bank to get those funds. And I think the using a partner, ROSCA, SUSU, I think that's the whole crux of it. It's the trust that's developed in a community. It's trust with a group of people that can say, okay, you're going to do something better with this money. I don't usually think people use it the way I did in terms of trips. I think most people use it as an investment vehicle to make something better versus just as to feel good about something. I think I'm an outlier when it comes to using it for a trip. But I think most of our parents have used it more as an investment vehicle.
People use it for a wide range of reasons. You'd be surprised. You said you had to take a trip and there were seven of you. Not everyone can, pull out a credit card and pay for seven people to go on a trip. So you obviously took some effort in planning and knowing that you couldn't do this all by yourself and needed to do it with the group.
Well, it's interesting because I probably could have done it by myself, but it was money that was better used this way versus the other way. Like if you see you versus using a credit card or a line of credit, this was actually cheaper money. So it worked out better.
Right, because you weren't paying to borrow the funds to do what you needed to do.
Exactly.
That's a great example. I love that it's a flexible tool that allows you to do all sorts of things. Abdul, you took a different path. So you have built a fintech solution rooted in this tradition. What inspired you to build and create Chitlink?
Although it's not yet completely built, but we're in the process of finishing it. What inspired me exactly was, so the first time I tried it out, I was introduced to it and I made my contributions, got my savings in a lump sum, paid off a lot of debts, had extra money on the side. I didn't need to have an interest rate to apply for a loan or pay interest on this lump sum of money that I have, which is my saving at the end of the day, right? But I had access to it faster. Then having this financial leeway made me think. I was sitting there and it hit me and I was like, if I can make this available for other people to have that chance, it would help others away from the financial strain that they might be feeling. That, people want to take a trip, like Phil said, some people want to take a trip, they just don't have the chance. And they've never heard of ROSCA before, or they've never heard of Asusu before, they don't have access to this sort of platform. Then the idea hit me that I want to bring this to everybody, including the Western audience, in a safe manner, in a way that ROSCA can interact with multiple financial systems, whereby it doesn't leave other people behind. That's where I got the idea from. It was my first contribution was when I got the idea and I was like, I got to try this out. We have to provide the solution to everybody. Everybody has to hear about this.
So what just resonated for me was creating something where you don't leave other people behind. Like when I think of financial inclusion and leveling the playing field or giving everyone the same opportunity, it really is about making sure that we don't leave people behind. Money can be such a barrier for all sorts of people, all sorts of backgrounds to do all sorts of things. I remember growing up, I used to say to myself that money should never stop me from doing anything. If there's anything that I wanted to achieve or that anybody wanted to achieve, money should not stop you. And if that means doing something as a group, coming together, pooling your funds, working as a group of 3 or as a group of 300, but pooling your funds and working as a community to do something so that everyone gets a chance to hit their goal or be successful in doing what they're doing, that's what we should all be striving for. It troubles me when, people who, let's say, want to pursue post-secondary education and cannot because they can't afford it. But if their family or community could participate in a savings vehicle like this, like in their Susu or Ajo or Pardna, a couple of months prior or maybe a year prior, then that could allow someone to pursue post-secondary or entrepreneurship. Like I always go back to that. I love that you and Phil talked about that. If you have a burning desire and dream in your heart to start some sort of business, but you just can't afford it by yourself, don't let that dream die. Join a partner, work with other people so that you can collectively help that person achieve their dream or that goal. That's really what I love about ROSCAs. And I also like, as Phil talked about, you don't need to use if you can delay a little bit of gratification and not use a credit card or not take out a line of credit, and you don't have to incur any extra interest, taking your time, working with people, building the trust, and then going to pursue whatever you need to pursue. Money should not stop us from our entrepreneurial dreams or our post-secondary dreams or our dreams.
It's a leveling field, I mean, when one can get together with like-minded people or even unlike-minded people in terms of, as what you were saying, what happens in Nigeria, the two different forms where people don't necessarily know each other, and the trust is in the system, then, to get something done, then that's the way to do it, man, because that's who we are as humans, that's who we are as people on this planet, and we need to be able to work together like that, so I hope your app comes out. I mean, I have some suggestions for you in terms of leveraging risk and so forth. So we could chat off camera later if you like.
Thanks a lot, Phil. I look forward to talking with you about this.
Do you see? ROSCAs are bringing people together right now. We're bringing people together. I'm connecting Phil and Abdul. I'm happy about that. Okay.
Thank you.
So now let's talk about trust and group dynamics. One word that consistently comes up when I discuss ROSCAs is trust. How can you be in a group with 8 other people and everyone takes turns and throws in $100 into the pot? How do you know these people? How do you trust these people? How do you know you'll get your money back? ROSCAs are built on trust. Like Phil's mom, Abdul, your family, my family, we did these things because we trusted the people who were in our circle or in our group. We don't just let anybody in. It's people that you have relationships with or people that have vouched for these people. So people that we trust. So Phil, when you joined your partner, how did you decide to join that group? How did you know and feel comfortable enough to trust them?
So I knew a young lady. She ran a partner. At least once a year she does it. She'd always invited me, and I didn't really need it or be involved in it at the time. But when this came up, her call came in at the same time, and I knew she'd been doing this for a while. I did not know her downline group, but I knew her, and I knew she's been doing it for a while. And I'm a part of the community, so I would have known if anything had gone sideways with it. I would have had some pre-news, and I would have known to say no. Had no such issues. Made one call just to check, and yeah, Phil, go ahead, man, you'll be all right. And I went ahead and did it, and it worked out just fine.
And how did you get the money to her? So when you were paying on your frequency, were you paying weekly or monthly?
It was bi-weekly, and we just did e-transfer.
Okay, e-transfer. And so you said you picked up the phone. This is someone that you knew you already had a prior relationship with.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's trust. You were able to pick up a phone. Like you could have gone and seen her, someone you can actually look eyeball to eyeball. That trust is the operating system of a ROSCA. So, Abdul, that is your design challenge. How do you bring trust into a digital environment? What choices are you making with ChitLink to maintain the same sort of security that people expect from a face to face encounter?
So, with regards to ChickLink as an organization, right? We registered with the Money Service Business License. That's the MSB license. So, it's a license you need to have before you dispense or you have a fintech platform. Regarding the trust aspect within the app, so one of the ideas that we went with was the collectors, basically the person Phil contributed the money to, will have to be registered with us in the sense that they have to register within the app. We have to get confirmations from, reputable people that this particular person handles this money as good as they are advertised as. And the other aspect is within the app, each user, we accumulate data in terms of how many times do they contribute, did they miss contributions? It's sort of like a credit system, but not technically a credit system because you're penalized in the sense that if a user misses contributions more than 2-3 times, then the collector for funds won't easily accept them to a new ROSCA. So what Chatlink is doing is it's receiving data in terms of, are you contributing regularly? Are you missing payment? So that's the trust level for Chatlink. It's the data collection as to, is the user contributing regularly? Is the merchant, we call the collector merchant in Chatlink. Is the merchant dispensing the money at the specified times as well? So those are the things that we're doing, and we're collecting data in that sense. The other aspect is, so for example, to join merchants, actually, users have to interact with people they know, right? People they know first, like within the family, to build trust with the app. It's like a credit system within the app. So you build trust by regular contributions with your family, with your friends, before you can then go to higher financial contribution. So, for example, $500 is the max for a new user. You can't contribute more than $500 biweekly as a new user. So, to have access to higher contributions, you have to build enough trust with ChitLink before you can access other higher contribution merchants. So that's how we try to go around the trust level to try and navigate and bring people along. Also, the wallet system is completely in control of the users. So the merchant is basically in control of the finances that come into the wallet. So they're going to dispense. They can't take the money and run away, basically. But the users can see where the money is going to. They can see, oh, like, okay, I'm getting my contribution this date. So it's basically users can see what's going on within the app.
It's transparent.
Yeah, it's transparent.
Yeah. And you know what? Transparency leads to trust. Both words that begin with T. That is what people who don't understand how a ROSCA works or people who are curious about moving online need to see. They need to understand if I give you $100 every week and the three of us are in a group, Andrea puts in 100, Abdul puts in 100, Phil puts in 100. Every week, I want to see that my money's gone there. And when it's Phil's turn to get his draw or his contribution, that he can then see that he's then able to receive his $300. It's key. That's what makes it work. It's about trust and about transparency. And what I like about your app is you're saying you can't just join any group. You need to be invited in, correct?
Yes.
Right. So you're not inviting a stranger, as in someone you're unfamiliar with, into your group.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that. Okay, so now let's talk about some barriers, some opportunities, and the cultural influence. Let's take a moment to zoom out and discuss the broader picture, the financial system itself. Phil, having come from Jamaica, moved to Canada with your family, have you noticed any barriers to accessing banks or financial institutions to family members that you have back in Jamaica?
Well, Jamaica is a funny thing, eh? So unless you're in the higher end of the echelon of finances, when you go to a bank, you better bring your lunch. You're getting there in 8 in the morning, and you're sitting down just trying to get stuff done. It's an impairment. So that's one within which my country is moving incredibly fast to fix. So happy around that. In terms of transferring money and money transfer back to the Caribbean, it's a task. Like, I mean, people use Western Union and various other money transfer systems. They take quite a bit of the funds that you transfer, one. And two, it's cumbersome because just sending, for example, something happened to me the other day. My family member in the United States, as a matter of fact, and I was just sending a $500. It wasn't a lot of money, just to help with some funeral expenses and just help him out. And it was such a crazy thing. Western Union had called me. Oh, we had to hold it because we weren't sure if this was drugs money, and $500, man. Like, I don't know, why this was a problem, but it took me 2 weeks to send it. Is it because maybe they're trying to force me to use bank to bank transfer where, the fees are off the chart? I don't understand why it was like that, but if I could use a ROSCA and move money across borders within the law for my family, and it's not being pegged that you're a drug dealer for $500 or some crazy nonsense like that. I would rather use that than versus going through these highly leveraged these companies like Western Union, which take quite a bit, hold your money for a while, which I'm sure they use in the overnight system for banking, and that money is helping them make other money somewhere else while it's in their possession. I'd rather it stay within our network, and we can have the overnight money lending systems working for ourselves too.
Right. We know that money remittance is a large, large business. And, you said there's a hindrance. So people back home, wherever back home is, don't have the option or the opportunity to collaborate or work with their relatives globally to get things done back home. And like you said, it can be challenging to send money and remit money back home. We can see the opportunities, we see the challenges and the obstacles, but wherever there's a challenge and obstacle, there is definitely an opportunity.
Can I add something though? Because when you start looking at this, and Abdul will probably notice this, you look at from the international money standpoint,
Yeah.
there is some issues in terms of like who transfers money between countries and which countries do it easier than others. I mean, so the SWIFT money transfer system isn't designed for people in Africa or the Caribbean. It's designed for a different group of people, and we just happen to tag along. So
Yeah.
there's a bigger issue that needs to be dealt with in terms of how money moves and how wealth moves across the world. So I think we're just a little piece of it. This is a massive issue that needs to be dealt with if wealth is to be built outside of Europe and North America.
Okay, so let me explore that one. Are you saying money moves easier for some and more difficult for others?
Absolutely.
And why?
It wasn't built. It wasn't built like, okay. For example, and again, I believe you may know this more than I. You're in Chad. I don't know. I'm just taking a random country, and you want a former French colony that wants to send money to your neighbor, a country next door. That money has to be routed through France. I mean, and the costs are off the chart, and so that inhibits just local growth in terms of wealth and building and doing things that are just important. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm talking about. It's a system designed, and I mean, like we can get into a big political conversation around this, but let's take our little piece and then we can build out from there, I think.
And build a system that includes everyone.
Yeah.
So again, clearly identified a challenge and an obstacle, which means there's opportunity. So Abdul, Chitlink, the app that you're building, who are you building it for? Where's the opportunity and what problem are you really trying to solve?
So, Chitlink, it's what we're trying to do is, encourage financial inclusions for everybody, irregardless of, oh, you just got into the country, you don't have a credit under your name, like you don't have a credit information, so you don't have access to loans. Again, another thing is like, are you financially okay to accrue interest on these loans in order to fund a project that you have in mind? So these are the issues that we are at Chitlink are trying to address. Like, you don't have to accrue interest in order to have access to financial solutions that might actually help your projects or your trips or whatever you need money for. What we're trying to do is create a system whereby everyone comes together, everyone figures, help each other out in order to provide a financial solution that doesn't require the user to accrue more debt, regardless of your financial class. And one of our biggest goal is to be able to interact with the credit system to say, hey, credit system, this people, they're contributing regularly, they're meeting up with their payments. So we can also serve as a verification for the westernized credit system to say, oh, this person contributes regularly. Can this help with their, their credit rates as well? How can we merge these two systems together to ensure everyone is included?
I like that because if we don't start including everyone, the divide just gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
You're gonna have to create a trust number, that I guess the other credit rating bureaus can look at and trust that number from your
Yeah.
people.
Yes. That's why, like I said earlier, it's data. Each contribution is a data. Like, are you contributing?
Okay,
That gives the user a score, a rating.
gotcha.
So if you contribute regularly, you don't miss your payments, you don't delay your payments too much, which is one of the frustrations for users of Isusu as well. Like, are people contributing regularly? That's where the problems happen, right? So we want a system whereby any user can interact with Chitlink and be rest assured that where this money is going, nothing's going to happen to it. There's not going to be hiccups.
Question for you, because like I've looked at some products similar to yours. Like, so how do you build in like a 10% or 20% where someone weren't able to contribute for whatever reason, they've got ill, whatever reason, is there a fund that can step in to put their funds in on their behalf, like a insurance, if you will?
Yeah, so that's one thing that's one of the things that are giving us issues right now in terms of, okay, what if the user's sick or the user just lost their job? That's one of the things that we're looking at. We just haven't found a way around it in terms of insurance. But one of the solutions that I've been thinking about is the finances will be pulled from the maintenance fee that the users are going to pay for using the app. So after each contribution and people are about to withdraw their money, we're going to take out our own percentage in terms of, you're interacting with the app. So we're hoping that when we insure the business, then the funds will come from the insurance from Chitlink to kind of like step in. Of course, we have to verify all information first, right?
Yeah, that's the banker fee, I guess, if you will. Right?
Yeah, basically.
That's a good question. But think of it just like aside from an app, what do we do now? So if somebody is sick or somebody is unable to contribute, the ROSCAs that I've participated in and the ones that I know currently going on, it's up to the person participating to find a way to cover themselves. Or they then have a conversation with the banker lady or like Abdul calls them, the merchant, who then will either get someone to cover your hand or get someone to take care of you in that respect.
Yeah.
That's usually how it works in the community. It's like, oh, I got her this week or I got him this week.
Yeah, because you don't want to let the group down because everyone
No.
is accountable and responsible to everyone else. That's where
Yeah.
the trust comes in.
Does your app allow for that?
Not yet. We don't have that built in yet. Like I said, one of the approaches we were doing was like we were gonna take a certain percentage from our own user interface fees and just cover for it. But I'm like I said, we're still building, right? So those are the questions that I need to ask, that I need to talk to people, figure a solution for.
We'll talk. Because I think I have some ideas that might help for you.
Thanks a lot, Phil.
I love it. I love the connection. I love the connection being made. Okay, so now we're talking about technology. Let's take this a step further. Technology and the future of ROSCAs. So we've discussed trust and we've talked about the barriers. So now let's look to the future. Phil, I like that you and Abdul are like brainstorming and like dialoguing. How comfortable are you with technology in your partner? What would it take for you to feel safe moving ROSCAs into a digital space? Because you sound like you're open to this.
Oh, I'm very open to it because I think it can help in a leveling field, especially as it gets bigger and as different people starts using it instead of $200 or 2,000 or what have you. So maybe the blockchain and the technology behind that to help secure it, using bigger sums of money to be able to invest, similar to banks and other institutions who, for whatever reason you happen to have 5 million laying around just for a night. You know what I mean? You're able to invest that in an overnight type of thing to help the ROSCA continue. Yeah, so I think technology is going to have to play a pivotal, important part to make it grow beyond a certain number. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that cutoff number would be, but for it to be really viable in a long and stand on its own. But yeah, technology is absolutely imperative that we encompass it for it to go beyond the community of just trust and friends.
Right. And I think also to get like the next generation involved. So like when I talk about Roscas, I always talk about my grandmother. Like for me, that's where it started. And I think the risk that we sometimes have in traditional forms of fill in the blank is that it doesn't always trickle down to the next generation. My grandma did it, my mom and my aunt did it, I'm doing it, but who's to say the next generation are participating, understanding, or embracing?
They may not. Sorry, you may not because your grandmother spoke to her neighbor and your neighbor spoke to their neighbor. Nowadays, these younger people barely talk to each other. So some of those connections don't happen. It's all digital. We see a lot of issues with, just a sidebar, a lot of issues with just people being lonely and not communicating, which also probably means they're not trusting each other. They're not seeing each other. They're not making those kind of connections that build trust. So I think that's going to be the issue there, I think.
Okay, good point. But everyone, we're all attached to our devices. We buy food on our phones. We date on our phones. We call vehicles on our phones. Like we bank on our phones. There are people who don't step foot into a building with four walls where there are tellers and people doing transactions. It happens on our phone. So it's almost like a seamless transition that this would be for Erosca users, right? Like I said, when I think of my grandmother, grandma didn't go to the bank. Grandma hid the money someplace in the house. Mom went to the bank. My aunt would do e-transfers. I would do e-transfers. But the next generation is now going to use an app to move money and to connect with people. Imagine being in a Rosca, not just in your neighborhood, like which it was for grandma, but now like imagine your cousins. Think of the cousins you have around the world. If you have a cousin in Jamaica and in Ghana and South America and in Switzerland, you can all participate in one group on an app and move money around and everyone takes turns doing what they need to do. That's the opportunity.
I agree. I agree. Like, I mean, again, those are people who know each other. But once we exhaust that, what happens?
Okay, very fair. I hear what you're saying. So, Abdul, from your perspective as a builder, what is going to make your app, Chitlink, different from other digital tools?
So while doing research for Chitlink, I owe you credit for this, for introducing me to the Interledger Foundation, because one of the biggest problems I was facing was which payment processor would I use for my Chitlink app. Like that was the biggest issue. It was stressing me out. And then you introduced the Interledger Foundation to me, and I read up on it. I saw the pitch that the idea is to be able to send money to any part of the world, like through an email. And I spoke with my team and I said, this is the perfect solution for Chitlink. This
Ah,
is the perfect, to make it global, this is the perfect solution for Chitlink. That means we can interact with any part of the world. We can send money, anybody can contribute together, anybody can send money to each other through Chitlink. And I remember sharing, the IntelliJ documents to my team, the tech designers as well, the UI UX designers, the front end developer, the back end developer, and we were just happy because we found the solution. Because one of the advantages that we have is we're looking to build on to utilize the IntelliJ protocol. Apps before us, a lot of them are not on the IntelliJ protocol, meaning they have to go through serious process of, okay, I have to send money here, or it's just local. But with Chitlink, we're trying to go global with it. We're trying to save it. You can save with anybody based on our trust rating system within the app.
I love that, and I'm so glad that I had a little thing to do with that. Share. I'm just passing the information on, but I love that. I wish you all the success. I love that. Okay, so now we're talking globally. Perfect segue. So cross-border potential and financial inclusion. So Phil, let's talk globally. I know that there are Cargills all around the world. You come from a very large family. If your Rosca group could send and receive money across borders instantly, how would that impact your family and your community back in Jamaica?
Well, I think for us, the way we think, we'd probably be doing especially with having our kids, invest in some things back home, like have them work together, even so some of them didn't grow together, but work together to take advantage of the things that we have in our backyard in the places that we call home. So yeah, I think that would impact us in that way. I think a lot of other families would probably impact them just sending someone to school, just helping out with post secondary, numerous ways. But for our family, it'll probably be more on the investment side for sure. That we would probably be more focused on having everybody focused on a project that we give leadership to someone within the country.
That's good. I use this cousin example. I always talk about the cousins, cousins around the world, everyone putting in $25 a week. You take turns and you're doing what you need to do wherever in the world you are. You're building a home, you're starting a business, you are sending kids to school, you're saving up for special occasions. Imagine your cousins around the world, like you come from Ghana or you come from Jamaica, or you come from wherever. Cousins around the world are saving their money together. You're building the family home back wherever home is or in a new home. Everyone is coming together to do something. It's the ability to cross borders easily that allows people to save money and work together. It just makes sense to me. And that to me would help level the playing field. So, Abdul, on your side, so I know you've been navigating business licensing and FinTrack registration. First of all, if you can tell everybody what FinTrack is, and then how is it going with regulations fitting into your mission?
FinTrack is basically an organization in Canada that's responsible for tracking and, safeguarding people against money laundering, basically. So for any fintech app, you have to register with FinTrack in order to satisfy the fact that you're not laundering. There's nothing like you're laundering funds in Canada. And then under FinTrack, there's something called the MSB license. It's called the Money Laundering Business License. So it's basically a license you need to satisfy you as a fintech app in Canada. And registering for that, it takes Chitlink a step further. It says that we're serious about this. We're serious about solving this problem. We're serious about bringing people together to find financial solutions to the issues around the world right now. Because, financial disparity is one of the biggest issues in the world, especially in the Western world right now. The financial differences between the higher echelon of the society and the high class and the middle class and the lower class, the financial disparity is just a lot. And with Chitlink, we're looking to bring that closer, to include everybody, to take us forward.
Before we close, I'd like to ask you both a forward looking question. If you could reimagine digital financial inclusion from scratch, what role do you see ROSCAs playing?
I think it's the traditional role, the same role where people build trust, are able to quickly up their financial game to do something important in their lives or in somebody else's lives without having to go to the banks. That said, moving forward, I think the big banks and any kind of banking institution that's already involved in financial transactions will have to take this into account because it's not going anywhere. It's not going to disappear. They're not going to legislate it away. People will continue to use it throughout the world, Africa, Caribbean, and in some European countries, they do use various forms of it also. So it's not going anywhere. So we're going to have to find ways to make sure it's included in the bigger system. I know that some of the challenges are that, like we are talking about moving money and worrying about the money laundering thing. This is something that I don't think it's, because it's the dollar amounts aren't that big for it to be a major issue, but the effects of those rules are big on us. So we're going to have to find ways to figure that out.
If I could reimagine digital financial solution, I think ROSCAs will actually be the zenith of financial system inclusion because it's actually slept on. It's a solution that is for everybody, regardless of your financial situation. It's a solution that helps everybody against accruing, interest or loans or financial insecurity. It solves all these issues in a way that's unprecedented. I believe it's the solution, It's an answer that has been looking at us in the face the entire time that we just haven't navigated, basically.
Can I add though that it's a solution for those who are the consumers of it. It's a troubling issue for banks because they don't get to use the money the way they want to use it. So I think this is where they butt heads. As much as the banks want to say that they're involved and the government, the control they lose is a challenge.
But I think most financial institutions, I think they're intrigued, but they don't understand. So I think it's up to us and organizations like us to explain and teach them about the powerful impacts that ROSCAs can have. The more people that have funds or access to money, potentially they'll be investing in financial products or doing all sorts of things, including banks. What I love about ROSCAs, Phil, you talked about earlier, younger people sort of being isolated and not connecting with other people. The way I see forward looking ROSCAs is that it creates connection. So again, imagine there's 8 of us. We contribute $25 a week. Everyone takes turns. So me and 7 of my best people, we're 8 people in a group. Everyone puts $25 in a week. That's $200 every week for 8 weeks. Everyone gets a turn. They go around in the circle. I'm going to check in with my 7 people and say, okay, it's your week. You have your $200. Are you going on a trip? Or, okay, it's your week. Are you using this money to invest to pursue further your education? Or it's your week. Are you using this money to go as a down payment to that dream house you want to build? It allows us to have conversation and to check in and to cheer each other on and support. We create that group where we're connected. We're not saving money in isolation. We're working as a group. And I take pride and support and joy in making sure that the other 7 people in my group are successful. Like my success is their success is my success. So I really love that part of this way of saving money and growing money. And then you think of countries, back home, wherever back home is, we want to make sure no one is going without. If you are $50 away based on currency exchange rates, like we're very fortunate in North America, if you're $50 away from somebody being able to pay school fees or buying a school uniform, or they want to start a fishing business, we can support our family and our friends back home. Like to me, that's the really powerful part of this, that they're included because we can support them, and then we can lift them up through financial inclusion. That really, really excites me, that no one gets left behind, that the opportunities many of us have abroad with our strong currency, we can help people and our friends and our family back home. That's why I love Roscas. And it's because grandma taught me, and I love everything grandma taught me.
I
Yeah.
agree with everything you said, Andrea, all of it. I just think we're going to have to, moving forward in this new world, we're going to have to reimagine money a little bit.
Reimagine money. I love that. Let that be the topic for our next podcast.
And I'm going to leave you with something. So I was home and I have a family member who is a roots man, you know what I mean? And I tried to give him some dollars and he looked me straight in the eye and he said, listen, Phil, you live in that world. Keep your money.
He lives in a different world. Okay. Well, Philip and Abdul, thank you so much for your thoughtful contributions. What we've discussed today reminds us that money is never just about numbers, really. It's more than that. It's about culture, it's about trust, and it's about shared meaning. Roscas really and truly embody this reality. They're at once traditional and adaptive, personal and collective, yet rooted in history and open to innovation. As we reflect on today's conversation, I invite you, our listeners, to think about how you define financial inclusion. Is it access to digital tools, or is it something deeper, like the ability to participate fully in financial life in a way that honors your community and your lived realities?
Thank you for having me, and great conversation today. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for today's episode of the Interledger Salon. To learn more about our guests, Philip Cargill and Abdul Animasan, and their work in strengthening ROSCAs both locally and digitally, please check the links in the description. We hope you'll continue joining us for these important conversations about digital financial inclusion and its global impact. Thank you so much for listening to the Interledger Salon.